How do? It's quite early, guys. I think we just missed the dawn chorus. As promised a week or so ago, I'm going to talk about UK Coroners Court in relation to prisons and deaths in custody. Obviously quite an emotive subject. First thing I'll say, I attended 2 coroners' courts. One in Bolton, that was for a death in custody at Forest Bank. Forest Bank prison is actually in Salford, but the coroners' court was Bolton. Come on, laddo. And one whilst at Strangeways. I've been involved in a few deaths in custody. Obviously it's an emotive subject, quite difficult to talk about. A couple of times I thought I would have definitely been in coroner's court, and I was never called as a witness. Let me explain one of them. We had a lad on healthcare at Strangeways. He was an IPP prisoner. He was abused as a kid. At that time on healthcare we had quite a lot of sex offenders. So he was on an unlock, 3-officer unlock protocol, which means he could only come out if 3 officers were there and he wouldn't be coming out with anyone else. He never wanted to be on healthcare. The staff had concerns for him. He was on an ACT document, assessment, care in custody and teamwork, suicide and self-harm. Anyone can open them documents. So I got to know the lad really well. He was on there 3 months. You know, if he was only out when other prisoners weren't there, if we put him on next size, member of staff would have to stand and chat to him. Nobody else out at that time, usually. Quite happy to do that, me. I had some long chats with him. He had no purpose in life. That's coming from him. He did say he would kill himself when he got the chance. He did say he would not kill himself on healthcare. The staff have been really kind to him. You know, had long conversations with him. He appreciated himself. He had a really good awareness that, you know, a sort of death in custody can affect a lot of people. Let me just tell you guys. Started back at the gym. The reality that I'm 59 in November. Going in there like a 21-year-old the last couple of days. I can hardly move, but there you go. That's my own stupid fault. Anyway, getting back to this lad. One really open conversation. These conversations are very matter of fact. I'm not saying it like, you know, off the cuff or anything like that. He did say, you know, I'm going to kill myself, don't you, Mr. Samuel? I says, I do, yeah. He said, have you documented it? I says, yeah, obviously I've documented all our conversations, which I did. Quite often in prison staff, and maybe elsewhere as well, only document bad things. You know, if someone's misbehaving, boo, entry on the computer or whatever. If someone's really good, very rare that people put things in. I used to document everything. I would put reports in. When you come on the healthcare, you then come under the psychiatrist. He saw the psychiatrist numerous times. A decision was made to discharge him from the healthcare. We couldn't really give him anything on healthcare. He wasn't comfortable on there. You imagine, some of you don't have to imagine, you've been abused and then you're housed in a prison amongst paedophiles and sex offenders. The psychiatrist was aware of the notes. This is nothing to do with the psychiatrist. I'm not saying the psychiatrist was wrong in what he did, but he was discharged back to a wing. But everything he'd said and done was documented. A couple of months later, on C Wing, he killed himself, sadly. The circumstances surrounding being in prison, why he considered that he got no purpose in life, no loved ones, no support, nothing to get out. He was an IPP prisoner, like I said. He was already well over tariff. And it sort of breaks the myth, doesn't it, that, you know, people who are going to kill themselves don't talk about it. We had some long conversations about it. So yeah, he took his own life. Myself, because I documented a lot of things, thought I might well be in coroner's court to discuss those things, to discuss the fact he'd said on numerous occasions he was going to take his own life, how well I knew him, etc, etc. But that didn't happen. So, let's talk about Bolton and Forest Bank first. The coroner's court I attended in Bolton was a lot different to the one in Manchester. Laid back is not the right word, but it was. I'm gonna have to swap hands again. Oh God. It was a lot less hostile. Do you want your ball? Go on then. Good lad. It was a lot less hostile. The way it was conducted was user-friendly, if you know what I'm saying. Just a whole different experience. So let's go to a death in custody I dealt with at Manchester Coroner's Court. For me, the coroner and ombudsman together should be looking to find the cause of death as best possible. This way, Stevie. They should be impartial and it should be reported accurately. No agendas. The reason I knew I was going to this coroner's court, the lad was on healthcare. He'd been on healthcare 3 months. He was due out at any time. He was a foreign national. He did speak some English. I had documented a lot of information, but the morning he was found, I found him. This way, Stevie. When I went in at 6:30 in the morning, you do a roll check, head count. Any wing in the prison, you basically go around, count the number of people in the cell, add those up, you have a roll board, check the figures, phone your figures in. So it'd be like Officer Samworth, healthcare, 22. This lad was stood by the window. He was either sat on the end of the bed or stood by the window every morning. I did a lot of early starts. I always spoke to him. He never spoke to me. This particular morning, when I'd done the roll check, he was already dead at 6:30. He was a silhouette against the window. You know, it is literally a case of open the flap, look in, morning, and on you go. So, 8:15, goes to his cell. The lad had clotheslined himself. It's very important, this. What's that mean? He tied some bedding, piece of bedding, from the end bars on his window, and he had leant against them. He wasn't hanging, ligature around his neck, he was leant against it. For me, it was bizarre. You know, you go in, take the person down, lay him on the floor, started CPR, and then you sort of think that went round his neck and that, you know. It's a very strange experience. It's like car crash moments, things like that in prison. So me, on reflection now, looking back, you know, did he intend to take his own life? Leaning on it. He was literally stood up at an angle. We've all seen the skiers in the Olympics. Yeah, the long jump down the big ramp as they come off the end. Fully extended body, feet at an angle, arms by the side, neck back. That's what he looked like. Jaw fully extended. It was pretty horrific. But he was leant against this clothesline, as it were. So I knew I'd be in Coroner's Court. I'd found him, whatever. The Ombudsman does a bit of investigation coming to the prison. I'm sure between the Ombudsman and the coroner, they decide a batting order, as it were. They decide which people need to attend the Coroner's Court, and then they will later decide what order those people are going to be put on a stand. Surrounding a death in custody, Coroner's Court and everything, people are terrified. The nursing staff are terrified. There's always lots of nursing staff there. They go back and they will look at everything from when the person first came into reception, the first interview with the nurse, when they weighed them, if they discussed methadone, anything. You know, if you looked, it might sound a bit sarcastic, but as a nurse, if you've looked at someone who has later taken their own life in custody, you're going to be in Coroner's Court. Nursing staff are terrified at Coroner's Court. I've seen people, you know, 2 months before, fretting and worrying. The sad thing is that, you know, they are nurses. None of them have done anything wrong. They've just been involved with, at some point, the person who's taken their own life. So that deems that they're going to be at the Coroner's Court. The Ombudsman interviewed me. He asked me 5 times about this guy that I found hanging. Each time I pointed out he wasn't hanging. There was a clothesline and he was leant on it. Next time, next time, next time. You weren't listening. I'd already done a police report, 4 hours long, that police report. The cop was really good. He said it needs to be accurate for the Coroner's Court. Stephen, where's your ball? Stephen, get your ball. Come on. Come on. So either, you know, well, no, come on, let's be right about things. In this case, the whole point of what I'd written was the guy was not hanging by a ligature, he was leant. There's vagal nerve, something in your neck, I believe round here, possibly leant on that. He's unconscious or whatever. Maybe he did want to take his own life, maybe he didn't. That's, you know, we'll never know about that. Maybe he was trying it, I don't know. But the Ombudsman hadn't read it properly, so I told him, corrected him 5 times during my 2-hour interview. He asked me lots of questions. He kept repeating the questions. He asked me why I didn't report that he was dead at 6:30. I told him he was stood by the window. He was like, yeah, but he was dead. I said, well, I know that now, so why did you not report that? Because I didn't know it was dead. You just went round and round in circles. He asked me a lot about the guy, how well I knew this guy. I knew him really well. He'd been on there 3 months. He'd been on a unlocked protocol. He was on a 3-officer unlocked protocol. He had been, when he first came in a segregation. He'd been on a bed watch. He'd been at outside hospital. He was on a 6-officer bed watch. He was quite violent when he was out. He was trying to assault nurses, trying to assault the prison staff, and generally throwing urine and excrement around whilst in hospital. Some bizarre behaviour. He was assessed. I don't know what line that assessment took by the psychiatrist, etc. This lad was not on a NAC document, assessment, caring, custody and teamwork. Nobody suspected or thought that he might take his own life. So the fact that I knew him, the fact that I'd found him, I'd been in Coroner's Court, Another thing about the Coroners Court, I understand Coroners Court might well be busy, but most deaths in custody are investigated a long time after the death. 12 months will be a quick one. One recently at Strangeways, 3 years. 3 years from a death in custody is a long time. People can read from statements. However, when you get in Coroner's Court, they will be asking you fresh questions. So if somebody was speaking to me, Officer Samworth, can you remember this? It's 3 years ago. If you can't remember, you need to say, sorry, sir, I can't remember that. People don't, they panic. Well, I think. It's not about thinking, not with this guy. He wants to know facts. Either you did this or you didn't do that. People are very nervous. The first day of this Coroner's Court, everyone who is a witness attends. There are other prison staff there, safer custody staff, in a support role, as it were. In fact, there's quite a few staff in support roles. Whether that support actually comes through, I'm not quite sure. The people who were going to be up on the stand in front of the coroner, it was quite obvious. Very little chat, might have a cup of tea, cup of coffee. The people who were there in support roles or other roles from prison, quite jovial, munching on their sausage butties. Okay. This lad was Polish. His sister attended. She had a legal team and she had an interpreter. She was on her own. I think there was other family members who, through commitments, couldn't travel. So she sat on her own in a UK Coroner's Court that was investigating the death of her brother. I felt really sorry for me. She was quite clearly upset. And then there's the other factors about the Coroner's Court, like I've said. The coroner, ombudsman, decide the batting order, what order people will come forward, take the stand and say their bit. You've got statements or whatever, you can have your statement in front of you. For me, the first person on that stand should have been me. I'd found this lad, I worked on healthcare, I documented a lot of information about him. He had been restrained a few times, I was involved in those, I documented that. I documented his eating habits daily. Took a jacket potato, had pudding, refused main meal, that sort of thing. Let's go this way, kid, come on. The thing about his sister, she couldn't understand why he'd taken his own life. There was a lot of weight loss. He'd been in 3 months. He had lost a lot of weight. I don't know how much, but she, when she read it, was shocked. And she couldn't understand his behaviour. She couldn't understand why he was on a 6-officer bed watch. She couldn't understand why he was on healthcare on an unlocked protocol. He was coming out without other prisoners. So after almost 2 weeks of sitting there listening to people, talk about reports and the like, there was only 2 officers there, me and my oppo, who was involved in taking him down and performing CPR. She was required to say very little, just her part. She supported me. And then I was up. So 2 weeks after the start, the coroner on the stand said sort of, I'm hoping, Officer Samworth, that you can explain to this young lady everything surrounding her brother being in prison, unlocked, bed watchers, eating habits, weight loss, the whole 9 yards. In my head, I'm thinking, yeah, I can explain all that, or I can give an account of it. And I could have given an account 2 weeks ago on the first day, so this young lady would have had some idea, not necessarily why her brother had died, but his behaviour and weight loss, etc. Sad state of affairs. I was pretty much the last person on the stand. Anyway, I explained best I could. I was told I could refer to my statement. I didn't need to refer to my statement. He asked me, as the ombudsman did, I don't know, over a dozen times. Why? Hey up, we got a big dafton here. Hello, come here. Come here. Hello. Come on then. Come on then. Good boy. There you go. You all right, love? Over a dozen times why I didn't report his death at 6:30. I explained that, you know, it was a silhouette. He was always there. I did speak to him. A dozen times, after a dozen times, the prison barrister basically said to him, you've asked this lad, same question, dozen times, he's answered you exactly the same way, exactly the same wording, you know, can you move on? The prison barrister then said to me, did you perform CPR on this lad? Yes, I did. Did you know he was dead? Yes, I did. Why did you perform CPR? It's because what we do. Not everyone might have done that in that situation. But me and my oppo did. Morning. Come on then, Stevie. It's Labrador City this morning.
Come on, Charlie. Come on, Charlie. Keep on, Charlie. Come on, Charlie. Charlie! Head up the on this morning. Come on.
Come on, Stevie. Good boy. Go on then.
Go.
Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, so I gave my account. I talked about his behaviour. His eating habits, very, very difficult. Sometimes he would come out and collect a meal. Sometimes he wouldn't. If he didn't come out, we'd take a meal to him. Sometimes he would take it off you, sometimes he wouldn't. He had a sweet tooth. If we had pudding on and there was any left, I would give him extra. All the staff would give him extra. But he lost a lot of weight. They're very, very hostile places, like I say. When I did a little run up to this, I described one nurse before she took the stand, wetting herself. There's no easy way to put that, you know. She was that terrified. She was actually on the stand 10 minutes. She got asked a couple of questions. One lass, a young nurse who was there, she, you know, I think she was early 20s. She was absolutely terrified. She was on just before me. She took to the stand. You could see she was terrified. She were white. She was shaking. She was asked a question. Did you do this report? No, I didn't, sir. Why didn't you do that report? I was on annual leave. She was on holiday. Okay, thank you. That was it. She was on the stand 20 seconds, no purpose. But thanks to the subscriber who pointed out, the coroner is one down from God. Yeah, that's where he sits. And the ombudsman probably sits just down from him. Police, people in the community, authorities, prison nursing staff, everyone is terrified of coroners. Bolton, the court was, what's the word? It was a far better atmosphere. It was conducted in a manner where people were more relaxed. The coroner actually, you know, would say to people, you know, if you need to take a minute or whatever before you answer the question, really, really good. The one in Manchester, very, very hostile. And people panic. There's a lot of deaths in custody, obviously related to drugs in prison. Again, the way they get investigated, the way they get reported on, for me, you know, it's almost, well, it is. The coroner is looking to blame somebody. Prison staff, nursing staff, all the time. You know, the fact that someone was a drug user, they're on the methadone program, they would take anything, they were well known. It just doesn't paint a clear picture for the family sometimes. But there you go. I doubt very much it's going to change. Off mic, one of the Manchester coroners was heard to say that he wanted to be the first coroner to place, let me get this right, a corporate manslaughter charge against Strangeways prison. That to me sounds like he had an agenda and wasn't neutral. But there you go, guys. That's UK Coroners Court and prisons. Bolton, you know, it was a supportive, you know, they were trying to report accurately, that sort of thing. Manchester, very hostile. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. Like I said, hope you're all going to have the best weekend possible. I will drop another, I've got another 2 dogs now. I'm going to drop another vlog tomorrow morning at 10 AM. Hope you enjoy your Sunday night and you get the right result, guys. Cheers, thanks for coming. Parting shot as always. Hello, hello. There you go. Crazy, crazy, crazy dogs. There you go, guys. Cheers, thanks for coming. I'll see you.